Welcome to the Darkstream, Vox Day, voxday.blogspot.com, and welcome to the Reprehensibles. Welcome to the VFM, to the Dread Ilk, and to the bears who I see are already flashing their bear signs. Glad you could make it tonight. To be honest, I was very close to not doing this at all tonight because I'm pretty wiped out, and I'm a little bit annoyed with myself. But tonight we're going to talk about the college admissions corruption, which is a much broader topic than you are probably thinking of. The reason I'm a little bit wiped out and the reason that I'm a little bit annoyed with myself is because we had our first friendly of the year tonight, and my team lost to my son's team 4-2, which was really annoying because it was 2-2, and we very nearly made it 3-2 with about 5 minutes left, and then we were just wiped out. And I didn't play very well. It was really freezing cold, and I ended up actually straining a hamstring a bit. So it's just one of those things where you're definitely feeling your age. You know, there's nothing like having to try to chase down a completely fresh 19-year-old wing who is making his fourth run in a row and to make you feel your age. So anyhow, but I'm here. I think it's important to maintain continuity. The secret to building up the blog was to post every single day. No, my son's not rubbing it in. In fact, the guys were pretty, the younger guys were pretty chill about it. They could tell that we were just feeling the cold in a way that they were not. And, so it was, it was good. I mean, I'm very fortunate to be able to do it. But I've noticed that the cold weather really affects me a lot, and I don't play very well when it's cold. It's true in practice as well. But, I'm here, you're here. Let's do this thing. So obviously the topic was inspired by the recent news of the arrests of Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman. Space Bunny had a pretty amusing comment today. She said, when I heard that there'd been a arrest in Hollywood with with FBI agents and drawn pistols, I didn't think college admissions was going to be the topic. Their first thought was, Felicity Huffman is a pedophile? So I thought that was pretty funny. I'm going to get to this. We're going to try getting to the super chats towards the end. I mean, go ahead and fire them in there, but we will get to them at the end because I do think that it tends to make the dark streams a bit more incoherent than they should. So anyhow, why on earth would these people do this crap? It's just absolutely ridiculous, especially in the case of the one daughter, Olivia Jade, who has a very, very successful career as a YouTuber. She's doing very well with that. And so why on earth would they go to these lengths to try to get their daughters into these universities, which frankly are not even particularly prestigious? And the answer is pretty simple. What these people value is perceived prestige. And if you look at what they're doing, I mean, these people know their kids are not smart enough to get into a good school. They're actors. Actors are not intelligent. Actors are some of the least intelligent people out there. But of course, that's why prestige and that's why money matters to them so much. And if you look at what people value, what actors tend to value most, and what people in Hollywood business and flashy businesses, the kind of people that pursue fame, actively pursue fame, what they value most is fame and feeling important. And so I suspect that the average actor IQ is below 100. There are some very, very intelligent actors, but it's a lot easier to transition from modeling to acting than it is to transition from science or some other intellectually demanding profession into acting. Think about this. Think about all the rappers who have successful acting careers, or all the black singers who have successful acting careers. That should tell you right there, you don't need to be very intelligent to be an actor. You can be. You know, James Woods is intelligent. Brooke Shields is intelligent. There's a number of folks that are intelligent. But by and large, we're not talking about rocket scientists here. And so when you look at the way that these people value shallow things, that means that they're going to pursue prestige at almost any price. And that's why it was important for them to try to do this. It's all about the perceived prestige of having a decent degree. For the most part, these were not people, Stanford was involved, but for the most part, these people were not attempting to get into the Ivy League. And what's really interesting is that this is not the primary form of corruption in the college university systems. In fact, and this relates to some of the stuff that Owen Benjamin has been talking about recently, the biggest corruption in the U.S. university system is, number one, the way in which foreign students are permitted entry on the basis of what are almost universally fake credentials. There's an entire industry. You can't even call it a cottage industry. It's a big industry. There's a huge industry in helping people from India and helping people from China get into American universities. And this is a very common. This is very commonly known, and it's not even. It's not even. It's not only not in any doubt, but it is. It's just winked at. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows about it. But that's not the only serious corruption in the industry. At the elite universities, especially the Ivy League universities, there what has happened is the capture of the admissions offices by the Jewish community. And it's really remarkable. Ron Unz has done some wonderful work on this stuff. And he demonstrated very clearly that although the main story is about the anti-Asian discrimination, and there is a high level of anti-Asian immigration, anti-Asian discrimination in the Ivy Leagues. And you can see this very clearly by looking at where the difference in admissions demographics from a university like Caltech, which is still relatively meritocratic, and a place like Harvard or Yale, where the admissions are practicing very, very active affirmative action on behalf of blacks and particularly on behalf of Jews. How do they know this? It's pretty simple. The national merit is a way of, it's basically a proxy for IQ for high potential 17 and 18-year-olds, juniors and seniors. It's based on your score on the PSAT, and then the SAT is used to confirm it. If you do the math, it's not a perfect IQ proxy anymore, but it used to be a very accurate IQ proxy until about 1990. And you can always tell what American is genuinely highly intelligent because they're national merit. If you're national merit, that means that you are one of the top 1,500 people in the United States in your age bracket. Now, obviously, not everybody takes the tests and goes to college, but it's a pretty reasonable first step, and people know about it's an objective measure. It's much more. I think it's about, if I recall correctly, it's about 3 IQ points higher than Mensa. And so, some of the people who are Neuroshock says, people don't take the PSAT seriously, Vox. Yeah, people who aren't smart don't. You don't do well on the PSAT because you take it seriously. I didn't take it seriously. We didn't even know about it. We just showed up for class one day. They said, you're taking this test. We took the test. That was it. We didn't know it was important. Anyhow, you can always tell the bitter smart boys because they just hate objective measures. It's all, my favorite is the people who are like, oh man, I would have done better on the SAT, but I went out partying the night before and I got so blasted and dun. They don't understand that that's actually a confession that they knew they weren't going to do as well, and they were actually preemptively providing themselves with an excuse for it. So, anyhow, so if you look at what national merit is, then you end up, and also here's the other thing. Nobody gives a damn that you're not very smart, okay? Anyone who is national merit is at that level. The fact that you didn't take the test means that you're not in the mix, okay? Maybe you're in the top 1%, but you know what? There's a 99% chance that you're not. So just forget the what about me nonsense. We're talking about a useful, objective metric that allows you to know if people are very intelligent or not. We know that Obama was nowhere nearly as intelligent as he was supposed to be because he went to the same prep school that my mother went to. We know what the program was there, and he was neither national merit nor was he the black equivalent. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, was national merit. Believe it or not, Hillary Clinton is quite bright. Just because you do well and you're very you're very intelligent and so forth doesn't mean that you're a good person. Doesn't mean that you've got any wisdom. Doesn't mean that you're a good. It doesn't mean anything other than the fact that you have a high level of cognitive. Your cognitive capacity is unusually high. Okay. I'm national merit. My best friend's national merit. PZ Myers, who I don't like very much and doesn't like me, is national merit. It's very, very easy to. It's a very useful measure just to demolish people who are supposed to be, very, very intelligent. Now, with Jordan Peterson, we can't do that because he's Canadian, so we don't know. But we do know that he didn't do well enough on the LSAT to go to the law school that he wanted to go to. So, okay, Neuroshock, you're banned. God, you're just such a gamma. I hate gammas. I don't hold the PSAT in high. I mean, the thing is, this is why I hate gammas so much. They just blather in total ignorance. They don't ask intelligent questions. They're always asking questions in order to try to pose as superior. The SAT, in order to be national merit, you also have to do well on the SAT. If you do well on the PSAT and you bomb the SAT, guess what? You're not going to make it. So, anyhow, yeah, I am going to be. I don't think I'm going to go on the same kind of tear that Owen does, but if you're a gamma, shut the fuck up. I don't like you. I don't like your behavioral patterns. Nobody does, but I'm honest enough to tell you. And you can change that. I've told you how to change that. I'm not asking you to change that, but I am telling you to keep it in check when you're listening to the Darkstreams. Is that so unreasonable to not annoy everybody for 1 hour? Can you manage to not annoy everyone here for 1 hour? That's all I'm asking. I think that's reasonable. Nobody's here to witness you demonstrating what a smart boy you are. Nobody is here for you to debate with me. All right? So, and there's plenty of reasons to be dubious about IQ tests and this and that and all the other thing. Plenty of reason. But this isn't the time and place for it. Okay? Anyhow, what's interesting is that if you look at the population groups, then you can see that people of certain identity groups are much more likely to get into an elite Ivy League university, even if they are not at the same level of objective performance as others. And so when you look at the National Merit Scholars, what you see is that there is massive underperformance by National Merit Scholars who are white and apply to an Ivy League school. There's actually a lower percentage of National Merit Scholars who are white who get into the elite Ivy League universities. Whereas, and there's a similar but not quite as bad underperformance by both Asian and Hispanics. Smart Hispanics are also discriminated against in the Ivy League, but Jews are massively overrepresented. So what, people say, oh, well, Jews are very smart because there's so many of them that go to elite universities and have elite degrees and so forth. But it's a charade. Most of the people who are graduating from Harvard have lower IQs than a lot of the people who are rejected there. And before you ask, no, I'm not bitter about being rejected by an Ivy League university. I wasn't rejected by any Ivy League universities. I didn't apply to any Ivy League universities. I didn't want to go there. I went here. Very pretty place, very idyllic. I went to a Ivy League reject school, as we called it, called Bucknell University. And it was an excellent compromise because it was simultaneously, at the time, it was simultaneously ranked the #1 liberal arts college in the country, and it was the #5 party school in the country. And it was kind of funny because I went to, I visited, my dad wanted me to go to MIT because he did his graduate work at MIT. I refused to even apply. We visited there and I hated it. We then went to Princeton, and Princeton had, and I'm not kidding, the ugliest female population I've ever seen on any college anywhere. It was so bad. Combined with a very pompous tour guide who made both my dad and I want to punch him. I was interested in Princeton because I was a F. Scott Fitzgerald fan, and of course he was obsessed with Princeton. So then we went to Bucknell because it had been rated very highly by Newsweek that year, and I'd read that it was supposed to be a pretty good social place. And a beautiful Kappa Kappa Gamma gave us the tour and invited me to a sorority party that night. And as soon as we finished the tour, my dad said, well, I guess we know where you're going to school. So that was the compromise. And so anyhow, it was interesting. I was actually ready, to be honest, I was ready to be done with college after 2 years of it. But it was, and I was disappointed with it because, I thought it was going to be this, intellectually challenging experience. It turned out it wasn't. No, I did not look into Lehigh. But it was a decent experience overall. And so, yeah, gammas and Kappa Kappa Gammas are two entirely different things. Let me tell you a funny story about Harvard, by the way. I've mentioned this before on the blog, so some of you will have heard it, but I think most of you won't. It was very amusing because I was dating a girl at the time who had her best friend was at Dartmouth and her other best friend was at Harvard. And so she wanted me to meet them. And so we were going to go up to, so we went up to Dartmouth for the weekend or for a long weekend or whatever. But it's a bit of a hike. And so we ended up staying one night at Harvard with her other friend. And so we went to a party at Harvard, and there was this big guy there, hockey player. And he was trying to impress the girls. So he was talking about how he played for Harvard's hockey team, and all this sort of thing. Guys do it, like they hold their beer in their cup like this, and they're kind of like, yeah. Anyhow, I happen to be a fan of the University of Minnesota hockey team, having grown up in Minnesota. I played hockey for a few years. I enjoyed the Minnesota State High School hockey tournament. And so I kind of paid, some attention to it. So I just happened to know what their schedule was. And I just happened to know that night, the University of Minnesota was hosting the Harvard hockey team. So I was a little dubious. I said, so that's cool. Are you injured? And he said, what? No, I'm not injured. I said, well, why aren't you in Minnesota then with the team? He's like, what? Minnesota? What are you talking about? Because he's from Harvard. So I had to spell it out for him, very clearly, speak very slowly. I said, the Harvard varsity hockey team is playing against the University of Minnesota hockey team right now in Minnesota. Why aren't you with them? Of course, he, quickly fled the scene after, muttering something about he played intramural hockey. So anyhow, I my response, of course, because I'm a kind and gentle person, as he was fleeing away, I said, I thought you guys were supposed to be smart. But anyhow, so I've always, from my earliest, despite the fact that I was actually, first lived in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Yeah, you're banned, Michael. It did happen. I don't lie about these things. If you ever try to claim that I am lying about something, you will be banned instantly. In fact, I could even arrange to get a testimonial from the person who was there. So I'm not lying about this stuff. You can even look it up. Look up. In fact, let's do that. We can actually figure out the date that it happened. So it would have been 1986, University of Minnesota. Maybe 1986, 1987, actually. I think it would have been in the winter, obviously. Hockey schedule. Let's see here. No, we don't want the roster. We want the schedule. Jeez. Schedule, okay. So they give us 2018. I don't want 2018. Okay, maybe we can't find the schedule. Oh, here we go. Yeah, we can. I bet we can find it on Wikipedia. Let's see. Schedule and results. Okay, that's basketball. That's not going to work. Anyhow, I'll look it up some other time. But the point is that I am very confident that you will find um, that they did indeed play Harvard, and they did play them at home. So, year by year records. Oh, those are just scoring records. Anyhow, but yeah. So, anyhow, I'm not into this stuff. Also, the thing that you might, why would we ban Sir Hamster? Anyhow, what you also may not realize is that I was a varsity athlete. I was on the varsity track team at Bucknell, and so, oh, there we go. Joe Smith says you can find it there December 12th and 13th. Harvard play Minnesota in Minnesota. Are you really surprised? or did you think I actually looked it up first? Anyhow, who cares? Why? Because people, credibility and honesty are all you have. Yes, I lettered. We won the East Coast Conference indoor and outdoor both seasons that I was on the team. And so anyhow, we used to, if you're a varsity athlete in college, you're used to these guys who were big news in high school, who like to talk it up, and they always end up challenging you, and so forth. And so, no, Harvard's got a really good hockey team. That's why. Big deal on their campus. It's a very good team. But the reason Harvard has such a good team is the same reason that David Hogg got into there. A lot of Harvard's assumed excellence is not really excellence. A lot of their prestige is actually inherited from the previous generations, and the fact that they the previous accomplishments of people that used to be there. And so that's why you see so much of these not very bright, so many of these not very bright people being accepted into these elite schools because of their political fame, because of their identity connections, and so forth. I mean, it was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious to see Ben Shapiro coming out against credentialism and connections on Rush Limbaugh. Yes, I've played Hearts of Iron PC. I have 3 of them, I think. Ben Shapiro has never accomplished anything on his own. He used to be given talking points that he would just basically write out, and that was his WorldNet Daily column. That's why his stuff is so boring. I mean, the guy is not stupid, but he is nowhere nearly as bright as the YouTube and the all of the manufactured social media stuff would have you believe. Destroying so and so in one perfect tweet. Jordan Peterson calmly dismantles. Do you ever notice it's always calmly? He calmly dismantles so and so. He calmly destroys libs in one perfect tweet. And so Temujin insists that Ben Shapiro is 5'4". No, but these guys aren't truth. And here's the thing. There's nothing true about any of this stuff. Owen was correctly dismantling this myth of Jewish intelligence. Totally false. Totally false. That people are using wizardry whenever they are appealing to a subjective measure, a subjective metric. The number of Nobel Prizes means nothing. It means literally nothing. Einstein ripped somebody else off, and they give him a courtesy Nobel Prize. They didn't give the original thinker that stuff. The way that science works today. Actually, I think one of my favorite Nobel Prizes was the one won by two guys who detected background radiation, cosmic radiation. They detected it, and they didn't know what it was. So they call this other guy who explains it to him. And then they get the Nobel Prize because they happen to get lucky enough to notice something. There's a hum. There's a funny hum out there. Clam? What's that hum? I don't know. Should we go ask that smart guy? So he realizes what it is, tells them what it is, explains it to them, and they win the Nobel Prize. It's ridiculous. All you need to know is that Barack Obama and how am I spacing out his name? Paul Krugman have Nobel Prizes. These guys are always wrong. If Paul Krugman has a Nobel Prize for his work in economics, I should have too. Because I know more about economics than he does, and I am more often right than he is. It's ridiculous. So anytime some yeah, Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize for bombing Libya. Anyhow, if anyone won a Peace Prize just for being elected president, it should have been Donald Trump. Actually kept us out of war with Russia. If Hillary Clinton had been elected, we would have gone to war with Russia. And Russia would have also gone to war and would have conquered Ukraine. Probably Georgia as well. Yeah, that's a good one too. Bob Dylan won a Nobel in literature. Has he ever even written a book? They probably gave it to him for his lyrics, which are not even particularly good. If you're going to give someone a Nobel Prize for lyrics, then you should give it to David Sylvian. And so if you look at these, any evidence of intelligence, much less group intelligence, The I don't know. My mic seems to be working fine on this end, so it's probably just the stream. Actually, it might be on the it might be on the other end. So I'll have to look at the I'll have to look at the lyrics. One of these days, we're going to do a dark stream on Bob Dylan's Nobel Prize winning lyrics. Oh, my notification sounds, huh? I don't even know how to turn them off. I mean, it actually says my notifications are off. So I don't know what's. Oh, maybe if I turn my. Oh, it is off. Anyhow. All right, look. Somebody's already said I'm having audio issues. We don't need 37 more people saying the same thing. Let's get to the super chats. Yeah, you guys keep saying, every time you get this notification, blah, blah, blah. I don't have any notifications popping up, so I have no idea what I'm supposed. Oh, maybe if I turn my. Yeah, except I think my email is off. No, okay. All right, so let's do the super chats. Are the comics appropriate for 12-year-olds? Some of them, yeah. Jeeves is. I wouldn't do the Alt Hero or Avalon. Okay, so okay, a couple that we missed. Will any club catch Juventus in Serie A? Unfortunately, no. Boingo Bear asks, do you ever feel like a human 8-ball? No. Thank you, Vox, learning so much from you. Sometimes I feel like I should grow my hair out a bit. I don't think people realize that I'm not quite as bald as I seem to come off on video. Except I won't. It was funny. Somebody said something about, are you insecure about hair loss? Total like little gamma attempt to unsettle. My answer to that is I shaved my head clean in my 20s long before I was ever losing any hair, just because I liked it that way. So no, it doesn't bother me. Brazilian Bear just threw some cash. Thank you. As did Gretchen. Thank you. Cordell Mitchell said, don't be too hard on yourself, Vox. I wish I was in half the shape you are, and I'm 23 and I work out. Well, I'm actually feeling pretty good about where I am workout-wise. I was super stoked yesterday because I managed to do 2 sets of double-digit pull-ups. I would like to get back to when I could do like 17 and 15 for my first 2 sets. Nowhere near there yet, but I was really happy to be able to do 11 and 10 because I've only been able to do them for the last month or so. I haven't done them in 8 years. So it's nice to be making progress, but it's just annoying when you can't, when you don't play well, when you let your team down. And then, when you injure yourself and whatnot, part of why we gave up the 2 goals in the end is because I wasn't in there. The other wing was hurt, and we had a overmatched defender trying to play wing on the side that they ended up attacking down twice. So, but what can you do? I literally couldn't run. So, Strunkamir says, uni functions as a filter to the lower elite ranks. That's correct. And that's why the whole idea that, only the smartest people are going to the best schools is just total BS. It's not true at all. The whole reason, it's kind of like the way that people think representative democracy is to better affect democracy. It's not true. Representative democracy is there to limit democracy. The admissions office is there to limit the meritocracy. If they wanted to make university entry meritocratic, it'd be very, very easy. Here's the test. Whoever scores best on the test gets to go. That's how it works in a lot of universities in Europe. In a lot of countries in Europe, if you take the tests and you qualify, you can go anywhere you want. But they make it really, really hard once you're in, and they flunk people out. In Japan and in the United States and in the elite British universities, it's kind of the opposite. They have this winnowing path to the elite, and then once you're in, you're in. All you have to do is not completely screw up. Thinker Bear says, "Hi Vox, was listening to Dante's Inferno today. Good for you. Good taste. And it talks about a place in hell for those who do usury. Is it immoral to be a banker who does this? Yes, it is. It's legal, but it's not moral." Charles Carlson says, "A ban a day keeps the gamma away." I think it helps, but part of why I'm amping it up is in preparation for the next Voxiversity, because the next Voxiversity is on gamma, and we're probably going to see some epic spurgouts, although probably not as intense as when we do sigma, because of course all the gammas are convinced that they're sigmas because they're smart boys and secret kings. So anyhow, but I think I was talking to Delta Man today. He's the guy who wrote the Graduating Gamma series. He's a former hardcore gamma himself, so he understands the whole mentality and psychology and behavioral pattern much better than I do. He's a huge help in that regard. And we were talking today, and we think that we've come up with a way of helping people understand, helping gammas understand that no, you're not actually a secret king who's secretly on top of all the hierarchies in the world. Maybe. We'll see. It's worth a shot. The SAT isn't an IQ test now. That's true. It hasn't been since, I think, 1992. But I ditched all the SAT prep classes my mom paid for and got a 1950. If you are smart, you don't have to try on fake IQ tests. Well, that's correct. They've dumbed it down. It's very, very easy now. Fred Perez says, $5. Thank you, Fred. Clark Smith says the same. Thank you, Clark. Commissary asks, Vox, any thoughts on the collusion between publishing and academia? Maybe off topic. No, I think it's related. Publishing makes a tremendous amount of money through academia. So it's in their interest to cooperate and do whatever the academics want. And so the bigger collusion is between publishing and the politicians, because that, Hillary Clinton did not sell millions and millions of copies of The Politics of Meaning. Politicians, whenever they come out with that book, nowadays when you're running for president, you come out with a book. Well, it's a total fiction because, number one, the guy doesn't write it himself. Number two, nobody actually buys it in a store to read it. Nobody reads these things. What they're used for is a form of campaign donations. So, the publishers love to play along with this. They love this sort of thing because basically they're just being used as a conduit for campaign financing, and they make their cut off it. Temujin says, Gamatel always picks the edgy assassin character in video games. Clark Smith says, Vox, Jordan Peterson and the Jungian psychologists always talk about discovering one's dark or shadow side. Is this their version of acknowledging one's sin nature as Christians believe? More or less, yes. The difference is that you don't have to discover your dark or shadow side. You know perfectly well what your evil inclinations are. Frankly, I just think I think it's gammas being dramatic. Muffhead says, mic noise is Windows error alert. Check event viewer. Okay, I will look into that. Thank you. It's kind of funny. You think about that guy who is totally harmless, or at least before Columbine, we would have considered him totally harmless. And then if you're ever unfortunate to get into a conversation with him that lasts more than 5 minutes, they'll always say something like, man, sometimes I really scare myself. Just, it really scares me, the things I'm capable of. Before Columbine, we all would have said, yeah, dude, the only thing that you're capable of scaring is a donut. But, maybe we need to rethink that attitude. Eleutheria Bear says, Jordan Peterson enthusiastically and savagely dismembers libtard feminist. Well, we can dream. But yeah, I don't think we're going to see many highlights like that. Benjamin Collins says the Windows noise is a USB device disconnecting. Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me too when I've heard stuff like that occasionally on my headset. But the thing is, I don't have any. There's only 2 things that are plugged into the USB, and they're both working as far as I can tell. So anyhow, I'll look into it. I'll check out the event viewer. Somebody did a super chat and then deleted the message. So I don't know what that is, but thank you. Grime Knight says, hey Vox, I finally got around to reading all 6 Alt Hero comics and loved it. Awesome. I'm glad. Got a chuckle from the Ship of Fools reference in the last one. You weren't the only one. Dr. Hallpike thought it was really funny too. I have to admit, I really enjoy writing the interactions between Dynamique, Rainbow, and the rest of the team. They're just so obviously not into the whole hero thing at all that it makes me laugh. Enrique says, I love your streams. Thank you. I appreciate it. Kyle Lewis says, what's a good way to build financial wealth? Get into the financial industry. A friend of mine who is a banker once said he's tried a lot of different things, but he keeps going back into the banking industry because nothing makes money like money. Chris Hicks says, for the Jordan Peterson at the Trilateral Commission stream from the other night, listened to it earlier and it was excellent. Interesting takes on interesting concepts, riveting. Thanks, Chris. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I think I'd like to do more commentaries like that. It's kind of fun, and frankly, it's easy. Boingo Bear says, sorry, Vox, I meant Magic 8-Ball. Drinking last night messed that up. Apologies, sir. Accepted, but not necessary. But no problem. Inquire again. P.S. Could social justice be viewed as a modern Christian heresy? No. He says, like the Cathars, Arians, Lollards, etc., it seems perfectly designed to prey on Christians. I don't think so. I think if you look at, yes, it probably came out of the progressive movement, which originally came out of the liberal Christian, temperance unions and whatnot from the early 20th century, or early 19th century, sorry. But if you look at who the social justice warriors are, it's not something that really seems to appeal to Christians much. It's much more appealing as a substitute for religion. Ponderosa, rather than a heresy. Ponderosa Bear says, John von Neumann was born to a non-observant tiny hat family. He was baptized Roman Catholic in the States. No Nobel Prize. Guess they didn't like the team switch. Yeah, you think? Did Tesla ever, was he even around to win anyhow? Prizes and awards are very seldom given to the most deserving. Let me back up. The most objectively deserving. TSX says, I learned so much from your blogs and streams. Thanks. You're welcome. Thanks for the support. Simulated Internet Friend says, what should we learn from Kikvik? SJW brigading bigly tactics appear to be folding up in the pace of competent conventional lawyering. Also, what was that pre-1962 homeschool text you mentioned? Well, yeah, I can't say more about it, but our response to the Indiegogo deplatforming is, I think, literally shocking them. Um, Absolutely hammering them. And I think it's going to go very, very well for us. Um, Things like Ethan Van Sciver coming back at those folks is brilliant. Vic, what's his name, going after the people that attacked and deplatformed him is brilliant. That's the key. You have to fight back. All the whining, all the crying, all the playing victim and hoping that the media outrage will help you. That's not going to work. You can't rely on that. Porter Basin Bear Hodges says, I appreciate your streams. Thank you. Been reading a lot of C.S. Lewis recently. Good stuff. Weston from Lewis's Space Trilogy reminds me a lot of Jordan B. Peterson. Yeah, that does make sense. Can't wait for the next Voxiversity. Great stuff. One of the things that's been shocking to me is that, I don't think about the Voxiversity much in terms of, building it up, in terms of the subscriber base for it and stuff. Because, really all I do is just pop it up there, right? And that's that. But what's really interesting is that Voxiversity is actually growing faster, like 2 or 3 times faster than the Darkstream is. I looked at the other day, and I was really surprised because it said like the 200 new subscribers is a good day for the Darkstream. And so I was kind of curious because I noticed that the Voxiversity subscribers had gone up, and I took a look at it, and I said, and I noticed it was like 867 new subscribers that day. So, I'm delighted that people are finding it worthwhile. I'm glad that people are learning from it. And I am rededicated to making sure that we get 2 or 3 of them out every month. And we'll have another one for you very soon here. Let's see. Frank Underwood asks, has Delta Man written more about going from Gamma to Delta than what is posted on Alpha Game? No. So that is the right direction. Oh, and somebody mentioned, I forgot to answer the second part of the question. The pre-1962 homeschool books that I mentioned are the Collier Junior Classics. You can find them on eBay. Although somebody wrote to me and complained that apparently I've been driving up the price of them by mentioning them. Eleutheria Bear says, Anstaya Shikulu Unstyle B. Oh, Haha I Shelau, Bob Dylan. Hey, that's Nobel Prize winning stuff there. Literature with a capital L. Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus says, in the book Sex and Culture, a methodical study of 80-plus historical societies showed a perfect correlation that when societies lost their sexual morality, they fell apart or were overrun. I'm not surprised at all. We know this from those of us who are familiar with the Roman Empire. I'm a little surprised that the correlation is perfect. And I'm not entirely sure that it's causal. I think it's more of a symptom than a cause. But the more that people focus on hedonism and themselves, and the less they focus on building strong families and teaching children how to become strong adults, that's going, the family is the linchpin of civilization, of society and civilization. And so when you weaken that core element, you weaken the whole thing. Darth Pliskin says, I don't like the term secret king. Arthurian mythology is great, but now when one hears secret king, all one can think of is some Scoutsian goblin. Well, the two are related. I mean, all the gammas think that they are a secret king, like King Arthur. So, um, whether you like it or not, it's relevant. Benjamin Collins says, "Is gamma behavior always malevolent and self-destructive? Seems like it. Like you're an easy conduit for bad influences." I don't think so. I think there are some positive aspects to it. Like, for example, gammas tend to be subject matter experts. Something in their behavioral pattern causes them to be drawn to order and systematization. And so when you, I don't think that you can say, they also tend to be very romantic. And I think that they also tend, as far as I can tell, that when they do manage to get into a relationship with a woman, they do tend to be very loyal to her. So it's not universally bad. Just because I dislike it, just because women dislike it, doesn't mean that it's all bad. James Edwards says, "It's about time I chipped in by doing more than buying books." Well, thanks. I appreciate that. But buying books is extremely important. Buying, our audiobooks, buying our print books, that's what keeps the whole machine going. And so we appreciate that. Muffhead says, "Do you have hope for the Southern Baptists to kick the SJWs out and re-embrace nationalism? Not while Russell Moore's running them. My understanding is that God loves the nations." He does. The Bible predicts the nations are going to be around until the end. So this whole globalism thing is intrinsically churchian, is intrinsically wrong, totally false. Temujin says, "Social justice appeals to churchians. I know a lot." Well, yeah, but churchians are Christians who have abandoned, they're hollow shells of Christians. They're Christians on the outside and nothing inside. Jomas Tefferson says, "Constructive criticism. I have a higher IQ than you seems like bad rhetoric. There are times to say it, but I feel you do it too much. Thanks for stream." Yeah, you don't understand what I'm doing. It's not bad rhetoric. In fact, you think it's bad rhetoric. Why? Because it provokes an emotional reaction? That's good rhetoric. That's what rhetoric is supposed to do. What you don't understand is that that is something that intensely burns, that it intensely bothers and unsettles the very people that I want to do that to. So it's not, you need to keep in mind that sometimes I'm not trying to appeal to everyone. Sometimes I have other objectives in mind. Born Bear says, "I admire the beauty of that chair. If only Joe Rogan sat on it, we could finally see the entire pattern of that oak leaf pattern. Love your stream." Yeah, this is my grandfather's chair, and I'm very happy to have it. It's it would amuse him to know that it was seen by so many people and so widely admired. Charles Carlson said, "I know you've said you're multilingual. Have you ever studied the classical languages?" I assume you're talking about Latin and Greek. Not really. I've done a little bit of Latin study. I know the Greek alphabet. That's about it. So, well, thanks for tuning in tonight. One last question. Should I do a biz deal with a personality who has strong alpha characteristics but is calculated and very vindictive? Well, all alphas are vindictive, so, he's 90% alpha, 10% gamma. I would say yes, if he's reasonably honest, but be aware of what you're dealing with and don't, definitely don't double cross him, because, somebody like that sounds like they would make for a formidable enemy. bad enemy. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing you the next time. Just remember, the college admissions process is corrupt. Don't take it overly seriously. And I'll look forward to seeing you the next time. This is the Darkstream. I'm Vox Day.